You're watching Global Echo Center. China has just canceled billions in U.S. farm deals, shaking America's agriculture heartland.
Soybean prices are collapsing fast and can go from $13 to $11 after China's sudden trade pullout. China now turns to Brazil for trade. A major power shift in global food trade begins.
And today, what's happening in America's heartland is nothing short of an economic earthquake. Farmers across the Midwest are waking up to a reality they never expected. China, their biggest buyer and financial lifeline, has just canceled billions in U.S. farm deals. The result? A full-blown crisis that threatens to collapse the backbone of American agriculture. Right now, silos are overflowing with soybeans, more than 4 billion bushels worth. But instead of a booming harvest season, U.S. farmers are staring down financial ruin. Prices have tumbled from over $13 a bushel to near $11, far below the $12.50 needed to even break even. Every sale now means a loss. And when you multiply that across thousands of farms, the total damage reaches catastrophic levels. This isn't a market correction, it's a collapse. The pain doesn't stop with the farmers. The ripple effect is hitting small towns, local banks, and entire rural economies. In places like Iowa, Illinois, and Kansas, farmers who once ran profitable family operations are now struggling to pay off loans. A typical mid-sized farm could lose over $150,000 this season alone. Banks are tightening credit, equipment sales are plunging, and entire communities are bracing for a financial storm. So why did China make such a drastic move? On the surface, it might look like fallout from the trade tensions, but the truth runs much deeper. China has spent over a decade working on a plan for food independence, a strategy to never again rely on a rival nation to feed its 1.4 billion citizens. And when you look closer, you see this was never about short-term retaliation. It's about long-term strategy and control. China saw dependence on the U.S. for 30% of its soybeans as a dangerous vulnerability. So instead of being caught in another geopolitical standoff, they built a backup plan. That plan is now fully operational, and it's centered around one country, Brazil. Brazil has rapidly become China's agricultural lifeline. Their soybean exports to China have skyrocketed to a staggering 90% of China's total imports. China is willingly paying higher prices to Brazil, betting on a future where their food supply can't be influenced or disrupted by Washington. It's a power shift happening quietly but decisively, and it's rewriting the rules of global trade. The scale of this transformation is massive. The total value of U.S. agricultural exports to China is set to plunge by 30% this year, wiping out billions in revenue. That's not just a statistic. It's lost livelihoods, broken businesses, and fading hope across America's heartland. Meanwhile, Brazil has seized this once-in-a-generation opportunity. They've spent years converting millions of acres of land into fertile soybean fields. Their agricultural production has surged by over 35%, powered by massive investment from agribusiness giants like Cargill and Bunge, companies that used to dominate in the U.S., but are now pouring billions into Brazil. This isn't just about who grows the beans. It's about who owns the future of food. Brazil is now building new railways, expanding major ports like Santos and Paranaguá, and transforming its infrastructure to meet China's insatiable demand. Ships are lined up at the ports, carrying record volumes of soybeans, 14 million tons last month alone, bound straight for China. What's truly stunning is how this entire system has been re-engineered in real time. Shipping companies have rerouted vessels, freight rates have doubled, and global logistics have been flipped upside down. The Brazil to China route is now the busiest soybean trade lane in the world, and unlike the U.S. route, it's outside American naval reach. China's brilliance lies not just in changing suppliers, but in changing the map of global trade. They're building an entire network of deep-water ports, inland transport hubs, and BRICS-linked trade systems, all designed to operate without any U.S. influence. Every shipment from Brazil to China strengthens a new economic alliance that's reshaping global power. This isn't an isolated shift. It's part of a grand strategy. The BRICS nations, Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa, are creating what's essentially a food club, a secure network for trading essential commodities insulated from Western sanctions and financial control. Within this framework, China ensures food security, Brazil secures long-term buyers, and Russia supplies the fertilizers that make it all possible. In fact, Brazil's imports of Russian fertilizer have jumped by over 25% this year, creating a perfectly balanced cycle. Russia provides inputs, Brazil produces, and China consumes, all without a single US dollar changing hands. That's the new reality of global trade. For the US, this represents not just an economic challenge, but a geopolitical reckoning. America has long relied on its dominance in agriculture as a source of global leverage. But as the BRICS network strengthens, Washington's influence over the global food chain is slipping away. We're witnessing the birth of a divided world economy. One led by the West, the other driven by BRICS. And this soybean crisis is the first major fracture line in what could become a long-term economic divide. The consequences for American farmers are devastating. Finding new buyers to replace China's massive demand isn't realistic. Europe, Southeast Asia, and Africa simply don't have the capacity to absorb that much product. That means lower prices, fewer exports, and shrinking profit margins for years to come. The U.S. government may step in with emergency subsidies, but that's just a temporary bandage. Long-term, the country will have to rethink its entire agricultural strategy. Farmers might be forced to pivot to other crops, or even reduce planting altogether. And let's be clear, this isn't just about soybeans. It's about a fundamental reshaping of global trade and power. China's decision to cancel these U.S. farm deals is a calculated strike, one that weakens America's economic core while strengthening its own alliances. In the end, what's unfolding is bigger than trade. It's a quiet revolution in how the world feeds itself, and who controls that process. The cancellation of billions in U.S. farm deals marks not just the collapse of a market, but the rise of a new global order. This is Global Echo, where we bring you the stories behind the headlines, the strategies behind the chaos, and the truth behind the power shifts shaping our future. Stay tuned, stay informed, and if you found this report valuable, make sure to like, share, and subscribe. Because the global echo of this story is just beginning.